My beloved children, hear me as I recount the story of Joseph, a story that began with dreams and ended in destiny. Joseph, the son of Jacob, was special to me. I had set him apart even before he was born, and I placed dreams within his heart that would one day save nations. Jacob, his father, loved him dearly and favored him above his other sons. He gave Joseph a beautiful coat of many colors, a symbol of his deep affection. But this love and favoritism, though genuine, would become the spark that ignited the flames of envy and betrayal. Joseph was a dreamer, and these dreams were not mere fantasies. They were visions I had given him. In these dreams, I showed him his future, a future where he would rise to a position of great authority. But these dreams, when shared with his brothers, only deepened the chasm between them. They couldn't understand that these dreams were from me, and instead, they saw Joseph as arrogant and prideful. Their hearts hardened with jealousy, and the seeds of betrayal were sown. One day, I guided Joseph to his brothers as they tended their flocks. His journey to them was not by chance. It was a step toward the fulfillment of the destiny I had prepared for him. As Joseph approached, his brothers' jealousy reached its peak. They plotted against him, and their plan was dark and filled with malice. They stripped him of his beloved coat, the symbol of his father's love, and threw him into a pit, a dark, empty cistern. In that moment, Joseph was alone, vulnerable and forsaken, but I was with him. Even in the pit, my presence surrounded him, and my plan was still unfolding. His brothers, in a cruel twist, decided not to kill him but to sell him into slavery. They exchanged their brother for a few pieces of silver, and Joseph was taken to Egypt, far from his home, his family, and everything he had known. But even as Joseph journeyed to a foreign land, I was preparing the way before him. What seemed like a devastating betrayal was, in fact, a necessary step in the journey I had ordained. You see, my children, what man intends for evil, I can turn for good. Joseph's journey from being the favored son to a betrayed brother was not the end of his story. It was only the beginning. I was with him in the pit, I was with him on the road to Egypt, and I would be with him in every trial he faced. Joseph's dreams were not lost. They were merely being refined through the fires of adversity. Remember this, my beloved. No matter how dark your circumstances may seem, no matter how deep the pit of despair, I am with you. Your journey, like Joseph's, is guided by my hand, and I am working all things together for your good. Trust in me, for I am faithful, and I will bring you through every trial, just as I did for Joseph. My beloved children, imagine the anguish Joseph felt as he sat in that dark, cold pit. His brothers, the ones who should have protected and loved him, had turned against him in the most unimaginable way. They threw him into a place where hope seemed to vanish, where the walls of the pit echoed with his cries, unanswered. But even in that moment of deep despair, I was with him. I saw every tear that fell. I heard every cry for help, and though it seemed I was silent, I was working in ways Joseph could not yet see. In your own lives, you may find yourself in a pit of despair, betrayed by those you trusted, abandoned by those you loved. You may feel the crushing weight of rejection, the sting of loneliness, and the overwhelming sense that there is no way out. But remember this, the pit is not the end of your story. Just as I was with Joseph, I am with you. The darkness of the pit is only temporary, and it is in these moments of deepest despair that I am nearest to you, shaping you, preparing you for the journey ahead. Joseph, though rejected by his brothers, was never rejected by me. His time in the pit was not wasted. It was a time of refining, of stripping away the comfort of the familiar, and of learning to rely solely on me. The pit, as dark and hopeless as it seemed, was a place where Joseph's faith was deepened, where his trust in me was solidified. And so it is with you. When you find yourself in your own pit of despair, know that I am there with you, working in the unseen, preparing you for a greater purpose. When Joseph was pulled out of that pit, he was sold into slavery. But even then, his story was far from over. The pit, the betrayal, the rejection, they were all part of a divine process that would lead him to a place of unimaginable blessing and power. My children, your trials, your pits of despair, are not the final chapters of your lives. They are the very crucibles that refine you, that draw you closer to me, that prepare you for the destiny I have set before you. Do not let despair overwhelm you. Do not let rejection define you. Instead, lift your eyes to me, your Redeemer, your Deliverer. Just as I lifted Joseph out of the pit and set him on the path to greatness, I will lift you out of your despair. I will turn your mourning into dancing, your sorrow into joy. Trust in my timing, for I am faithful to fulfill my promises. Remember, my children, that the pit is not your final destination. It is a temporary place of preparation, a place where your faith is tested and your character is forged. And just as I brought Joseph out of the pit and into his destiny, so too will I bring you out of your trials and into the glorious future I have prepared for you. Hold on to me, for I am your refuge, your strength, and your ever-present help in times of trouble. My children, after Joseph was taken out of the pit and sold into slavery, he found himself in Egypt, in the house of Potiphar, a captain of Pharaoh's guard. Though Joseph's circumstances had drastically changed, one thing remained constant. My presence was with him. In a foreign land, far from his family, Joseph chose to honor me, even in the midst of his trials. He could have given in to bitterness, but instead, he held fast to his integrity, knowing that I, the Lord, see all things and reward those who walk uprightly. In Potiphar's house, Joseph was diligent, trustworthy, and faithful. His character shone brightly in the midst of his adversity, and because of this, I blessed everything he touched. Potiphar saw that I was with Joseph, and so he placed him in charge of his entire household. Joseph's integrity, even in the face of hardship, was a testimony to my faithfulness and power. But, my children, the enemy often seeks to destroy those who walk in my ways. Potiphar's wife, filled with desire and deceit, sought to seduce Joseph. Day after day, she tempted him, urging him to betray his master and sin against me. But Joseph, a man of integrity, refused. He knew that no matter how enticing the temptation, it was not worth compromising his relationship with me. He declared, "How could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" In that moment, Joseph chose righteousness over fleeting pleasure. He chose to honor me, even though it would cost him dearly. And indeed it did. When Potiphar's wife falsely accused Joseph of assault, he was thrown into prison, an innocent man condemned. But even in the prison, Joseph's integrity did not waver. He knew that though he had been wronged, I was still with him, and I would ultimately vindicate him. My children, in your own lives, you will face trials, temptations, and injustices. You may be tempted to take shortcuts, to compromise your integrity for momentary gain. But I urge you to follow Joseph's example. Walk in integrity no matter the cost. Hold fast to your convictions, for I see your heart, and I will reward your faithfulness. When you choose to walk in integrity, even when no one is watching, you honor me. You become a light in a dark world, a testimony to my righteousness. And though the path of integrity may sometimes lead you through valleys of hardship, know this: I am with you every step of the way. I will strengthen you, uphold you, and in due time I will exalt you. Just as I was with Joseph in Potiphar's house, blessing him for his integrity, so too will I be with you. Your trials are not in vain, and your faithfulness will not go unnoticed. Trust in me, and I will lead you through the fire, refining you, and bringing you into the fullness of the destiny I have prepared for you. My beloved children, Joseph's journey was one marked by trials and tribulations. Yet through it all, he remained steadfast in his faith. After resisting the advances of Potiphar's wife, Joseph found himself falsely accused of a crime he did not commit. The very integrity that he clung to became the cause of his suffering, as Potiphar's wife, out of spite and humiliation, lied about his intentions, and Joseph was thrown into prison. But even in this dark chapter of his life, I was with him. Imagine the pain and confusion Joseph must have felt. He had done everything right. He had honored me, remained faithful, and resisted temptation. Yet here he was suffering for doing good. My children, there will be times in your lives when you too will face injustices, when you will be falsely accused, misunderstood, or persecuted for standing firm in your faith. In those moments, remember Joseph's story and take heart. Joseph's time in prison could have been a time of bitterness and despair, but instead, he chose to trust in me. He knew that I am a God of justice, and though he could not understand why he was being punished for doing the right thing, he believed that I was still in control. My children, when you face injustice, do not lose heart. Do not allow bitterness to take root in your soul. Trust in my timing, for I am the righteous judge, and I will vindicate you. In the prison, Joseph continued to walk in integrity. He did not allow his circumstances to dictate his character. Even though he was surrounded by criminals and outcasts, he remained faithful to me. And because of this, I gave him favor in the eyes of the prison warden, who put him in charge of all the prisoners. Joseph's integrity, even in the darkest of places, was a light that could not be extinguished. My children, you may find yourselves in situations where you are falsely accused or unfairly treated. You may feel as though the world has turned against you and that justice is out of reach. But know this: I am with you. I see your pain, and I hear your cries for justice. Do not take matters into your own hands, but trust in me. I will fight for you, and I will bring justice in my perfect timing. Joseph's time in prison was not wasted. It was a time of preparation, a time where his faith was tested and refined. And though it seemed that all hope was lost, I was working behind the scenes, preparing the way for his ultimate vindication and exaltation. My children, when you are faced with injustice, stand firm. Hold on to your integrity, for I am your defender, and I will bring you through the storm. Just as I was with Joseph in the prison, I am with you in your trials. Trust in me, for I am the God of justice, and I will not allow the righteous to be forsaken. Your faithfulness in the face of injustice will not go unrewarded, and in due time I will lift you up, just as I did for Joseph. My beloved children, even in the darkest moments of your lives, I am with you. Joseph's time in the dungeon was a test of his faith, a crucible where his trust in me was refined and strengthened. Though he was wrongfully imprisoned, surrounded by the walls of a dungeon that seemed to close in on him, Joseph did not lose hope. He did not let the darkness around him dim the light of his faith. He trusted in me, even when his circumstances seemed to offer no reason for hope. In the dungeon, Joseph could have given in to despair. He could have allowed bitterness to consume him, questioning why he, a man who had remained faithful, was suffering so unjustly. But instead, Joseph chose to hold on to me. He knew that my plans for him were greater than the prison walls that confined him. My children, when you find yourselves in the dungeons of life, when you are trapped by circumstances that seem beyond your control, remember Joseph's example. Trust in me, for I am with you even in the darkest places. Joseph's faith in the dungeon was not passive. It was active, living, and steadfast. He continued to serve faithfully, to do good even when no one was watching. And because of this, I blessed him even in the prison. I granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden, who placed him in charge of the other prisoners. My children, when you walk in faith, even in the darkest times, you open the door for my blessings to flow into your life. Your circumstances do not limit my power or my ability to bless you. In the dungeon, Joseph met two of Pharaoh's officials, the cupbearer and the baker, who had been imprisoned. When they each had troubling dreams, Joseph, with unwavering faith, sought me for the interpretation. He did not rely on his own understanding but acknowledged that the ability to interpret dreams came from me. My children, in your times of trial, do not rely on your own strength or wisdom. Seek me and I will guide you. I will give you the wisdom, strength, and insight you need to navigate even the most challenging situations. Joseph's faith in the dungeon was a beacon of hope, not just for himself, but for those around him. Through his faith, I was able to use him to bring hope and clarity to others, even in a place of despair. My children, your faith has the power to impact those around you. When you stand firm in your trust in me, even in difficult times, you become a light in the darkness, a testimony to my faithfulness and power. Though Joseph remained in the dungeon for a time, I had not forgotten him. I was preparing him for something far greater than he could have imagined. My children, when you find yourselves in the dungeons of life, do not lose heart. Your faith in me is never in vain. I am working in ways you cannot see, and I will bring you out of the darkness and into the light. Hold fast to your faith, for I am faithful, and I will fulfill my promises to you. My dear children, even in the most confined and seemingly hopeless situations, I can use the gifts I have placed within you to bring hope and light. Joseph, though imprisoned, did not let his circumstances dictate his trust in me or his willingness to serve others. When Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker were troubled by their dreams, Joseph was ready to be used by me. He knew that the gift of interpreting dreams was not his own but came from me, and he was eager to use it for my glory, even in the prison. The cupbearer and baker's dreams were troubling, and in their confusion and despair, they turned to Joseph for help. My children, there will be times when those around you, burdened by the challenges and uncertainties of life, will seek guidance and hope. It is in these moments that I call you to use the gifts I have placed within you to bring my light into their darkness. Like Joseph, do not be afraid to step out in faith, to offer the wisdom, encouragement, and hope that comes from me. Joseph's response to the cupbearer and baker was one of humility and faith. He did not take credit for the ability to interpret dreams, but pointed to me as the source of all wisdom and understanding. Do not interpretations belong to God? He asked, acknowledging that I alone hold the keys to all mysteries. My children, when you are called upon to use the gifts I have given you, always remember to give me the glory. It is through your humility and recognition of my sovereignty that my power is made perfect in you. When Joseph interpreted the dreams, he spoke with confidence, not because of his own abilities, but because he trusted in me. The interpretation he gave to the cupbearer was one of restoration, promising him a return to his position of honor. To the baker, however, the interpretation was one of judgment, foretelling his death. Though these interpretations were vastly different, Joseph did not shy away from delivering the truth. My children, when you are called to speak into the lives of others, speak with truth and love, even when the message is difficult. Trust that I will give you the wisdom to share my words in a way that honors me and brings light to those in need. Joseph's faithfulness in using his gift, even in the prison, did not go unnoticed. Though it took time, the interpretation he gave to the cupbearer eventually led to his own deliverance from prison. My children, never underestimate the power of the gifts I have placed within you. When you use them in faith, even in the most unlikely of places, I can open doors and create opportunities for my plans to unfold. The story of Joseph's time in prison is a powerful reminder that no situation is too bleak, no circumstance too confining for my purposes to be fulfilled. My children, if you find yourselves in a place of waiting, where the walls seem to close in and hope seems distant, remember Joseph's story. Use the gifts I have given you, trust in my timing, and know that I am with you. I will bring you out of your prison, and I will use you to bring hope and light to those around you. My beloved children, the story of Joseph's rise from prisoner to prince is a testimony to my power to transform lives in ways that exceed all human understanding. Joseph, who had been forgotten in the depths of the prison, was suddenly thrust into a position of unparalleled power and authority in Egypt. This miraculous turn of events was not a result of Joseph's own efforts, but of my divine intervention and timing. Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt, was troubled by dreams that none of his wise men could interpret. The cupbearer, who had once been in prison with Joseph, remembered the young Hebrew who had accurately interpreted his own dream. He spoke of Joseph to Pharaoh, who immediately summoned him from the dungeon. My children, in my perfect timing, I can bring you out of obscurity and into the light of my purpose. Joseph had been faithful in the small things, and now I was preparing him for something great. When Joseph stood before Pharaoh, he did not boast of his abilities, but humbly acknowledged that the interpretation of dreams belongs to me. My children, when I bring you before kings and rulers, when I elevate you to positions of influence, remember to give me the glory. It is not by your own strength or wisdom that you are exalted, but by my grace and favor." Pharaoh's dreams revealed a coming famine, and Joseph, through the wisdom I gave him, provided a plan to save Egypt from disaster. Pharaoh recognized that my spirit was upon Joseph, and he immediately appointed him as the second in command over all of Egypt. My children, when you walk in obedience and faithfulness, I will open doors that no one can shut. I will position you in places of influence, not for your own glory, but for the fulfillment of my purposes. Joseph's rise to power was not just for his own benefit, but for the salvation of many. Through the wisdom I imparted to him, Egypt was able to store up grain during the years of plenty, ensuring survival during the years of famine. My children, when I elevate you, it is so that you may be a blessing to others. The gifts, talents, and positions I give you are not for your own gain, but to serve my people and bring glory to my name. As Joseph took his place as a prince in Egypt, he did not forget the lessons he had learned in the pit and the prison. He remained humble, wise, and compassionate, always acknowledging my hand in his life. My children, when I bring you into your season of elevation, remain grounded in me. Remember the journey that brought you there, and use your influence to reflect my love, wisdom, and justice. The story of Joseph's rise to power is a reminder that I am the God who lifts up the humble and brings down the proud. I am the God who turns mourning into dancing, who takes what was meant for evil and turns it into good. My children, trust in my timing and my ways. Though your journey may be long and filled with trials, know that I am with you. I have a plan and a purpose for your life, and I will bring it to pass in ways that will leave you in awe of my greatness. My dear children, the story of Joseph is a powerful testament to my divine providence, showing how every twist and turn of his journey was part of a greater plan. From the moment Joseph was sold into slavery to his rise as the second in command in Egypt, my hand was upon him, guiding, shaping, and preparing him for a destiny far beyond his wildest dreams. When Joseph was betrayed by his brothers and sold to the Ishmaelites, it might have seemed like the end of his dreams. But I was with him, even in that moment of despair. I was orchestrating events that would not only save his life, but also position him for greatness. My children, when you face betrayal and loss, remember that I am with you. I see the bigger picture, and I am working all things together for your good, even when it seems impossible. As Joseph served in Potiphar's house, I gave him favor and success in everything he did. Even when he was falsely accused and thrown into prison, I did not abandon him. Instead, I was preparing him for a greater purpose. My children, there are times when you may find yourselves in situations that seem unjust or hopeless. But know that I am using these circumstances to mold you, to refine your character, and to prepare you for the future I have planned for you. In the prison, I continued to work through Joseph, giving him the ability to interpret dreams. It was through this gift that I connected him with Pharaoh's cupbearer, a key link in the chain of events that would lead to his release and rise to power. My children, there are no coincidences in your lives. Every encounter, every experience, is part of my divine plan. Trust in me even when you do not understand the path you are on. When Pharaoh was troubled by dreams that none could interpret, it was the memory of the cupbearer that brought Joseph to his attention. I had orchestrated every detail, from Joseph's imprisonment to the timing of Pharaoh's dreams, to bring about the fulfillment of my purposes. My children, trust in my timing. I am never late, and my plans for you will unfold exactly when they are meant to. As Joseph stood before Pharaoh, I filled him with wisdom and insight, allowing him to interpret the dreams and offer a plan that would save not only Egypt but also the surrounding nations. Through Joseph, I was able to preserve a remnant of my people, ensuring that the lineage through which the Savior would come remained intact. My children, know that your lives are part of a much larger story, one that spans generations and eternity. Your faithfulness today can have an impact far beyond what you can see. In every step of Joseph's journey, my hand was at work, guiding him, protecting him, and fulfilling my promises. My children, I am the same yesterday, today, and forever. The same providence that guided Joseph's life is at work in yours. Trust in me with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge me, and I will direct your paths. My beloved children, forgiveness is one of the most powerful expressions of my love, and Joseph's reunion with his brothers is a profound example of what it means to forgive the unforgivable. When Joseph's brothers came to Egypt seeking food during the famine, they did not recognize the brother they had betrayed so many years before. But Joseph recognized them, and in that moment he was faced with a choice: to seek revenge or to extend grace. My children, there will be times in your lives when you are wronged, when those you love betray or hurt you. In these moments, you will be tempted to hold on to anger and bitterness, to seek retribution. But I call you to something higher, to forgive, as I have forgiven you. Joseph could have used his power to punish his brothers, but instead, he chose the path of mercy. He saw that their actions, though evil, had been used by me to bring about a greater good. My children, when you forgive, you are not condoning the wrongs done to you, but you are releasing yourself from the chains of bitterness and allowing my healing to flow. Joseph's journey to forgiveness was not instantaneous. He tested his brothers, wanting to see if they had changed, if their hearts had softened. When he saw their remorse and their willingness to sacrifice for the sake of their youngest brother, Benjamin, Joseph could no longer contain his emotions. He wept, revealing his identity to them, not with anger, but with love and compassion. My children, forgiveness is not just a decision. It is a process. It is a journey of the heart, where you allow me to soften your spirit and fill you with my love. When Joseph forgave his brothers, he was able to see my hand in everything that had happened. You intended to harm me, he said, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. My children, forgiveness allows you to see my perspective, to understand that I can bring good out of even the most painful situations. It frees you to move forward, to be a vessel of my love and grace. Joseph's forgiveness led to reconciliation, not only with his brothers but also with his father, Jacob, who had mourned his loss for so many years. My children, forgiveness has the power to restore relationships, to bring healing to wounds that have festered for too long. It is a reflection of my heart, a testament to my grace that covers all sins. When you choose to forgive, you are walking in my footsteps. You are extending the same grace that I have given to you, the grace that was poured out on the cross. My children, do not let the weight of unforgiveness burden your heart. Release it to me, and let my love flow through you. Forgive not just for the sake of those who have wronged you, but for your own peace and freedom. Joseph's story is a powerful reminder that forgiveness is not just a gift you give to others, but a gift you give to yourself. It is the key that unlocks the door to healing, reconciliation, and peace. My children, as you walk in forgiveness, you will experience the fullness of my love and the joy of living in harmony with me and with others. My dear children, the story of Joseph is a powerful reminder that I am always at work, even in the midst of your trials. Joseph's life was marked by hardship and suffering, but through it all, I was weaving together a greater purpose, one that would not only save a nation but also preserve the lineage of my chosen people. My children, know that your trials are not without purpose. I am with you in every struggle, every pain, and I am using them to bring about a triumph that will glorify my name. Joseph's journey was filled with betrayal, false accusations, and imprisonment, yet he remained faithful to me. He trusted that I had a plan, even when he could not see it. My children, when you face trials, remember that I am with you. I see the end from the beginning, and I am working all things together for your good. Your suffering is not in vain. It is part of the process of refining you, of preparing you for the purposes I have ordained for your life. The famine that struck the land was part of my plan to bring Joseph's family to Egypt, where they would be preserved and multiplied. Through Joseph's trials, I positioned him to be a source of salvation, not only for Egypt but for the surrounding nations as well. My children, your trials are not just about you. They are part of a greater story, one that involves the lives of those around you. When you trust me in your trials, you become a vessel of my grace, a beacon of hope for others who are also walking through difficult times. Joseph's reunion with his brothers was a pivotal moment, not only for his family but for my greater purpose. Through forgiveness and reconciliation, I restored what had been broken. My children, know that I am a God of restoration. I take what the enemy meant for evil and turn it for good. Your trials are the soil in which my miracles grow. When you surrender your pain to me, I will bring beauty out of ashes, joy out of mourning, and triumph out of tragedy. Joseph's story did not end with his rise to power in Egypt. It was just the beginning of the fulfillment of my promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Through Joseph's trials, I set the stage for the Exodus, for the formation of a nation that would bear my name and through whom the Savior of the world would come. My children, your trials are part of a much larger narrative, one that spans eternity. Trust that I am using your life, your story, to bring about my purposes in the world. As you reflect on Joseph's journey, take comfort in knowing that I am the same yesterday, today, and forever. The same God who guided Joseph through his trials is guiding you through yours. I have a purpose for your life, a purpose that is far greater than you can imagine. Your trials are not the end of your story. They are the path to your triumph. Trust in me, for I am faithful, and I will bring you through to the other side, where you will see the fullness of my plan and the glory of my name revealed in your life. My children, hold fast to your faith, even in the darkest of times. Know that I am with you, and that your trials are not without purpose. I am working in ways you cannot see, and I will bring you to a place of triumph, where my glory will be revealed and my purposes fulfilled.